Welcome back, guys. It's been about 3 months and a lot of stuff has happened. One of the biggest things we were all waiting for was DevNet to go live. And now we're here. So I want to welcome Ship and Joshua, and Soeren will be just here in a minute. But hey, guys, how's it going?
Great. Thanks for having us.
Oh, good.
Yeah, thanks for being here. So Josh, how long have you been here with us now?
See, today is my fourth week, I think. Third week or fourth week. Don't quote
Yeah,
me on it. It's been a whirlwind, but nearly a month.
yeah, and I thought it was about a month. And so I kind of touted you as dev relations manager, but I saw on your LinkedIn that you have a different title. So could you like give that to us and tell us what it is?
Well, DevRel relations manager is probably the most important aspect of the role, I think, in many regards. So, that's fine. But my official title is Chief Ecosystems and Partnerships Officer. And really it encompasses a few different aspects. One is ecosystem, which is kind of DevRel, grants, builders program, working with ambassadors, etc. So anything that has to do with the ecosystem itself that isn't sort of marketing. And then the partnerships is really the BD pipeline and BD efforts, business development, and getting people interested in coming and developing on COTI who may not be, just developing a one-off project. They may already have like existing dApps, existing partnerships, and that's really where we go out and kind of find the enablers that allow people who are interested to build in COTI to come on and find what they need. Sort of the toolkits, if you will.
Yeah, right on. So like kind of what I said to you in the green room right before the show there, Soren was giving me a brief about some of your experience and stuff, and that got me really excited with the blockchain. He was talking about you've been through encryption and privacy and the struggles you've had. So can you just tell us about your experience, because everybody's just dying to know more about you.
I appreciate that. Yeah. So, I spent 15 years in China doing startups and foundations. I had my own startup before the 2008 Beijing Olympics in Beijing, and we were really focused on helping domestic clients work with their international counterparts and trying to smooth that process through, whether that was through government relations or through communication channels, things that they needed built out. We had a successful exit of that startup, and I sort of took a bit of a working sabbatical to go down to the British Schools Foundation in Nanjing, China. And my role there was, kind of leading BD, marketing, and administration for an international school conglomerate that was doing offices in Nanjing. And long story short, what was supposed to be like a 1 year stint turned into about a 7 year stint, and because at that time the government of Nanjing, almost the whole government, got arrested for corruption, and so almost everything that we were doing on BD efforts and government relations effort got stalled out. And so while we were kind of wrapping up that project, and since it was stalled out, we founded a company called Cinder House, and something that I still have to this day. That's kind of like a creative and engineering outlet for ideas and concepts that align to whatever work I'm doing at the moment. That also allows me to do like sort of deep dive explorations and tests, etc., in a more controlled way. And we ended up getting involved in social entrepreneurship, and we were doing social enterprise case studies that sought to use business means to produce profit for social causes, in short. During that time, I got to know Jacqueline Novogratz at the Skull World Forum, and she's the CEO and founder of a project called Acumen. Acumen Fund. They leverage patient capital that invests in investees and fellows around the globe who are working on problems of poverty and injustice. And they take a really hardcore business bent. So instead of giving your money, to charity per se, you can donate in sort of two ways. One is you could just donate like you would to any other charity, and then they will recycle your money through a series of funds that invest in business means focused on poverty alleviation or elimination. Or you can do what they call patient capital, which is get slower returns on your investment, and they will invest in founders and social entrepreneurs who are sort of working at the bottom of the pyramid in emerging markets, and people who are kind of making that sub like $2.5 a day roughly. And I got an opportunity to lead marketing and engineering for Acumen. We developed a program called Acumen Academy, which was a school for social entrepreneurs and founders who were working in categories aligned to Acumen's social causes. And one of the things that was apparent was, you can give people capital all day, but a lot of times what they need are connections, they need education, they need training, and they need the networks that you have to have in order to be successful. And Acumen Academy was really about bundling all of those together into a community of really, really intelligent minds from all corners of the globe, who could then reach out and tap into key business and philanthropic leaders around the globe. Long story short, there we grew that from basically zero into a platform that was serving 600,000 community members in 194 countries, and a little over 1 million signups on that platform. And really proud of the work that was done there. But I'm wrapping up soon. I know this is long-winded, but it was during that time that we really got involved.
No, keep going, man. I told you, like, we really want to hear it. So, like, just keep going. It's great.
Yep. I appreciate it. Yeah. During that time we did, launches with people like Rockefeller Foundation, and, we launched projects with Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, IKEA, Barclays, etc. And it was all focused on sort of ideation of what were the things that could really move the needle in terms of social change around the globe, and genuinely move the needle and be tested, verified, and baked in, sort of real world data and real world social change, not, dare I say, sort of like pie in the sky wishes, if you will. Not that there's not a place for that. And we end up doing two. There was, part of my role was kind of watch technology that was coming down the pipeline that would have most impact on our network of fellows and investees around the globe. And we did a pilot on early GPT-3, and we started doing pilots, in blockchain. And that's really, even though I've been involved in some like minor ways in blockchain, that was really where I started finding my footing. And I kind of took the first opportunity I could to go out and start really developing in the space. And so I was part of the first cohort in the Plutus Pioneers program on Cardano. That's sort of where I got to know COTI from in its early days. And from there, I decided I could have more impact in the blockchain world, both because one, the pedigree from Cinder House, where we would participate in, different projects and try to prove out different case studies. I was able to just dive in and put all of my interest into blockchain. But I also fundamentally believe that if we can solve some of the regulatory hurdles, and if we can solve, I don't think there's that many technical hurdles left, but if we can solve regulatory hurdles and sort of, state issues, governmental issues, that blockchain really does have potential to either A, lift the next billion people out of poverty, or to put another billion back into it. So I think having moral leaders and people who care about what they're building, what they're doing is fairly critical. So spent some time in Cardano, like I mentioned, spent some time in Solana with Kin Foundation, Spent some time on Moonbeam and Flow with Jam, where I led the blockchain engineering team and led strategy. Eventually took over marketing there. And most recently was part of Providence Blockchain Foundation. And Providence Blockchain, we grew that from, again, basically zero to the largest L1 for regulated financial services for real world assets. To date, there's a little over 10 billion in RWA TVL that primarily comes from large financial institutions and large financial institutions, enterprises, and banks. So J.P. Morgan did a POC with us. Apollo, Hamilton Lane, Figure, which was the original founder of Providence Blockchain, who many unfortunately don't know that much about because I think they are embedded in that regulatory space. They have really done the disruption of the only asset class that I think has been truly disrupted by blockchain. So they've done a little over 6% of all US HELOCs. Those are US second mortgages on blockchain in 2023. And if you think of any other asset class, whether that be like, T-bills or, money market funds, et cetera, they're like not 1%, something like that. And when 6% of all of a particular asset class comes on chain, it's only because it's actually solving a real world problem, providing savings there. So, and I'm wrapping it up here. One of the things that we saw over and over again at Providence was privacy was constantly an issue. So whether it's regulatory sandboxes, whether it's governmental institutions, or it's just DeFi, wanting to perform strategies, on chain. It's something as simple as putting post up on a social channel. Privacy is a massive open concern for blockchain that is preventing real world mass adoption. And I think Shahaf and COTI's vision is exactly right. Until that is solved, we don't get to a mass adoptive state, or we go in something that I think is worse, where everything becomes a private blockchain construct held by powerful entities that are just using the technology that's been pioneered by blockchain, but without the ethos of Web3. So given the number of times I banged my head up against the privacy wall and seeing COTI as a viable solution with a community already behind them, and the leadership and sort of the technical prowess that COTI has had, it felt like a no-brainer to me to come over.
Yeah, no, thank you very much for that intro, man. We really appreciate it. The little bit that I've spoken with the team, they're super excited to have you. Again, talking to the ambassadors, everybody speaks so highly of you. For anybody who just tuned in, we're speaking with Joshua. You can follow him at Joshua B. Maddox on Twitter. He is the dev relations manager for COTI, working on the ambassador program, which we're going to touch on. But just if you guys could tweet out the space and let everybody know you're here and we're live, and everybody gets a better chance to get to know Joshua better. So before we go into the development program, I just we kind of usually touch on the markets just a little bit. And it's been 3 months since we've talked about this together, and a lot of stuff has happened, not only with DevNet, but the ETH ETF, which I did not think was going to happen this fast. And I always like to put some pressure on Ship because I love hearing him talk. So Ship, like, it's been 3 months. Lots has happened. What are your thoughts, man?
I don't know. It's never ending, like the crypto world. It's 3 months has been a long time. I'm just looking back to see 3 months. I mean, we're in May now, so February we were sitting at just sub 50K. We're probably still in that phase of disbelief, and we've shot up, and it's been a wild ride, COTI included. I think we hit as high as 30 cents, and we kind of come back down as Bitcoin continues to consolidate and chop a little bit. But it's been so fascinating. And like you said, got a lot of background noise from someone.
Yeah, Soren, what about you? What have you seen in the last 3 months? I know we spoke a little bit. I guess that was yesterday, but your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's not so much about what I've seen in the last 3 months. It's about what I've seen in the last 2 weeks. I think everyone has now decided and have understood that the blockchain and the crypto community is a huge voting bloc, and they need to be pandered to, and you can see that in unfolding in the presidential election campaign. And I think that's basically where all the ETF and everything else, it all originates from there. I don't think we would have seen this if it hadn't become an election issue.
That, I don't know who that was. That was not on my bingo card. Seeing Trump come out like that, and it was like unbelievable. The guy in the pit vipers, you guys probably all saw that video, right? You know which one I'm talking about, where he's like, why is everybody leaving the US? Because they're scared to do crypto here. Anyways,
No, I haven't seen it.
I haven't seen it.
I'll try to link it up as you guys are talking, but Josh, your opinion, just generally in the market, the past 3 months, or even just this year, the Bitcoin ETF, the ETH ETFs, just your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think there's excitement and trepidation that exists at the same time, and I think that's sort of the story of crypto, right? Like, I think that we've had some really interesting movements that are signals of what's ahead politically, which is fantastic. I did hear, political candidates on both sides of the aisle embracing crypto, but more broadly, we see places like the UK who has put in massive amounts of capital and energy in towards making sure that the UK is a regulatory haven for the next wave of digital assets, whether that's crypto or RWA or whatever it may be. And you see, like Monetary Authority of Singapore and Hong Kong and all of these other regions taking really important steps. Dubai, really the whole of APAC almost, where it's clear, I think, to everyone now that blockchain is here to stay, and crypto with that, and Web3 is a wave. And I think governments are really waking up and understanding that they've got to fight to capture this. And more importantly, sadly, is that large institutional players with the capital that sways government has woken up to it. And that's where you see these major banks and these major institutions making huge investments and spinning up the ETFs, understanding that their customers want exposure, right? So I think there's headwinds or tailwinds, excuse me, but there's also some regulatory headwinds. And I think we still have a real fight ahead of us in terms of regulatory capture and the regulatory, regulatory sandboxes and the regulatory stack as a whole. But it's exciting, though. I think I too wasn't sure the ETF was going to get approved, and seeing it get approved, I think everybody's going into consensus next week with a lot of fire lit underneath of them.
Yeah, and I think the perspective that you brought, Joshua, on things like it's not the only issue for blockchain, but it is one of the major issues in terms of privacy. And I think your perspective there is amazing, because you've been out there doing real world assets in the real world, and you've been dealing with this firsthand. And I find that very valuable to hear you talk about it.
Well, it's what you find is regulators, despite how many people feel about them, regulation, a lot of it came from a good place, and a lot of it is needed. A lot of it isn't, but a lot of it is. And so a lot of the sandboxes that they're doing, they're setting them up to make sure that the financial system doesn't topple as things did back in 2008. And with the speed of crypto and the speed of transactions that can happen to get us down past this T0 mentality, There does need to be some checks and balances on it, especially as we get into some of the more powerful entities. And for regulators to be able to have a hope of having an understanding of what's going on inside of some of these markets, they need to be able to have sandboxes where they can keep privacy like away from member banks or from member entities of a particular consortium, but they themselves be able to peer into transactions when they need to, in order to have insights on what's happening there. And to date, there just hasn't been an answer for complex logic that sits on chain where multiple parties can transact and you can choose which party has access to which data. That just hasn't really been viable until now. And so that's a massive unlock.
Out of curiosity, Josh, what privacy protocols have you experienced or have you been trying to use? Has it been ZK or FHE or a third type of privacy protocol?
Yeah, it's sort of all of the above. And when we see different really interesting things to watch are, again, not to keep talking about, but are the regulatory sandboxes, because governments will tell you very clearly what they want and what they want to experiment on. And one of the biggest things they're trying to pull out of those sandboxes are complexity, because they're wide-eyed that the more things that you stack on top of each other, the more likely it is to topple. And so in some of these sandboxes, I mean, they've reached out and kind of tested everything. And typically, now this isn't always the case, but typically what happens is, there'll be like some sort of ZK implementation that happens on one side, maybe an FHE implementation that's proposed. A lot of times what happens is they end up in a private consortium. So this is where you see like, app chains, subnets, supernets, private zones, etc., really being popularized, and private blockchains like Canton Network and Hyperledger, where you can control your validator set, you can control the definitions inside, and you can write smart contracts, and you can write different security implementations where a lot of it happens off chain, and then you can bring it back on chain in whatever sanitized version that you need. But it's clunky and cumbersome. So I think they try it all to see what is actually going to work. Oh, that is, and I think you see all of the flavors being experimented with inside of these sandboxes and inside of these, consortiums.
It's super interesting. I wonder as well. It's clear to us who've been following COTI for a long time that garbled circuits has an immense number of advantages to traditional privacy solutions. But I guess for the common person in crypto that's been around here for a while, they are less familiar with COTI, and that means that really things like FHE and ZK are kind of God's law. So it's almost a bit of a longer change management process where we have to introduce garbled circuits as a new thing and as a genuine competitor. But yeah, it's exciting to see us offer something new, because I know ZK and FHE has always been the way.
No, I completely agree, and there's a lot of proving that has to be done. Like we have, valid claims that have been tested, in the background, but those have to be now brought to bear, on a public blockchain for others to validate and others to test, and others to see what we're seeing. So that road to proving is something that we really have to focus on, and we really have to get right.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I got cut off earlier, but just as we wrap up this markets bit, I was going to say, for me, there's kind of two front runners, I think, or maybe three, which seem to go ahead of the market, which are decentralized physical infrastructure, AI, and then privacy. And I think I was just going to say that I think we're in a great place, and that COTI is covering at least two, if not three of those bases potentially. But I'll give it to you, Tracer.
I completely agree with you on that. Sorry, Trace, just jump in there. And that's another one of the things that's really exciting about garbled circuits is it is fast enough to do on chain that you can start doing ML, garbled circuits machine learning. And so that will allow, now, from my understanding, don't quote me on this because, I am not a researcher. But from my understanding from our researchers, that it's at the space now where we can start to do ML on chain. It's not quite there yet with, like large LLMs, but it is there for ML and some light touch version of LLMs. So that will enable another use case for AI on chain right when we really need it.
Yeah, absolutely. And Josh, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but for the general audience, what we're looking at with COTI is we're able to encrypt and safely store sensitive data on chain, and garbled circuits enable businesses or individuals or machine learning to basically run analysis on that data without actually exposing that sensitive data, which is one of the biggest advantages I think we have.
That's exactly right. And one thing I would just add to that is it's not just that you can store the sensitive data on chain. One of the big unlocks is that you can do encrypted logic on chain. So that means that you can have logic that would run inside of a smart contract. You can have that itself encrypted. So you can, do calculations on chain without understanding what exactly is being calculated inside of that encrypted, object. So
it's fascinating. We need a Unity video on that, Tracer, as soon as we can. Another PowerPoint slide out.
Yeah, well, that's funny, eh? Like it's too bad Unity wasn't here. I know he's not gonna like missing this, but Josh, you don't ever have to apologize for jumping in. Like you're the star of this show today, so like we're here to hear what you say. And just listening to you talk, just even through this last segment, it just proves that we got the right guy in the right spot right now. Super exciting. But let's move on to why we're here, and we're here to talk about the developer program, right? So I guess you kind of touched on this, but I'm going to bring us back just for anybody who's maybe just late to the stream or anything. Can you tell us, Josh, like what is your specific role to that program?
Yeah, so part of it is design and implementation, and then sort of the everyday management of it. For now, eventually, all such programs need to be decentralized, in my view, or at least elements of them. But for now, like a big part of it is getting the program set up, making sure that we have a strategic vision on who that program is really going to target. And then making sure also that when people come into the funnel opportunistically, as we began to do, more and more marketing initiatives as community members, like here today, as people begin to hear podcasts like this, that as they get into the top of the funnel, that there's clear paths for them to get applications in, understand why they want to build on COTI, understand how they can do that, and then more importantly, understand how we as a community can get behind them and champion their success inside of the network. So, we can get into practically on how that will happen, but it's really, the setup, the strategy behind it, and then really getting all of us inside the community to rally around the people who are in that program to make sure that they're successful. So I think in the next, so now that setup is done, now that some of the early funnels are created, a big part of it is just me doing my level best to listen to builders who are coming in, deeply understand what problems that they're facing, and then remove blockers in their path. Like since you're in Canada, you can kind of imagine my role as, in curling, the sweeper. Like I just need to get in front of whoever's there and really make sure that path is slick. So that way, as they go through, they're not hitting, major roadblocks. And that's really the crux of it.
Well, I don't like curling. I'm a Canadian football guy, so I'm gonna pick you like you're gonna be the offensive line in my book.
Perfect. Okay, I'll be your offensive line then. Yeah, we'll go with that analogy.
That's awesome. I was, what? It's funny, when I first wrote this up, I was gonna ask the ambassadors this, but now I kind of want your opinion on this, and I'm gonna ask you first. In your opinion, what is the ambassador role, and what does that bring to your team and the program?
That's a tough. You know what? I'm gonna bunt, to use another sports analogy, and I'm in listening mode. I'm coming in right now to really understand what COTI has been successful because there is a community already behind it, and it's one of the attractive things about COTI is we're not just starting with new technology. We're starting with a massive community that's been battle tested for 4 years, and that is huge in this space. And at this stage, I don't think it's my role yet to comment. I don't think I've earned the right yet to comment on exactly what the ambassador should be. Of course, I bring ideas and I bring experience, but I'm still at the moment where I'm listening and learning from the existing community and understanding how we take the culture that's been developed of COTI and make sure that that's applicable and isn't destroyed as we move into COTI's next phase of development. So with that, maybe political dodge question, I'm going to pass it over to our community member.
That's really good. I like that. And what you said about us being battle tested, like that's for sure. When, for years, for probably, how long has Treasure been around? Probably about 3 years now or close. That has been kind of the, whenever I'm wondering how our community is feeling about the project, you look at the treasury and, 33% at least, sometimes 50%. We can't always see how much of it was split between the chains, but it was always like, no matter what was happening, you look at that treasury and go, oh yeah, like the community still believes, and the treasury has had its issues like lately and before and stuff, but it's still like our community asks questions and they like to get answers, but all in all, like especially moving to V2, the first time, a lot of people, even myself, the first time I read the white paper, I was like, what do you mean? Like, what do you mean we're going to Ethereum? Ethereum has caused us a lot of grief just with the problems we've had with bridge and stuff. And about 18 hours in, and the second or third time I read the white paper, I was like, this really does make more sense. And as we did a couple spaces with Shahaf and just listening to him talk and just talking about the liquidity is there, the security is there, thinking about how people could just port their contracts over. And it just, as the days went on, I was like, wow, it made so much sense to me. So you're right. It is a battle tested community. It does feel like for the past, I've been here since the Binance launch. So not the whole time, but quite long. And I do feel like we've always been waiting for the next thing, right? We've been waiting for multi-dag and then JED and then multi-dag 2 and then the PPN. But this time is really, really exciting. And it's easy to believe that people are going to want to come and use it because it was before you had to have permission. It was hard to build on. And now it's like all the pieces are finally fitting. So it's got me really, really excited. But we're going to give Soeren a chance to talk, because I've had him muted there because he's the one that interference you're hearing, that comes from him. He's in Azerbaijan and it's just it's bandwidth, he says. So I keep him muted sometimes, but
I'm sorry, I do have a bit of background noise today. Yeah, but I want to touch on a few things. One of the things I always saw with COTI was a very exciting vision, but it never seemed like the COTI team was backing that vision up with building out a team and getting really serious about getting big and strong and go out and kick some butt in the world. Yeah. And we're seeing that now. The fact that we're sitting here talking to Joshua is a prime example of that. Yeah. COTI are bringing in so many top quality people, and it just sends out a total signal to everyone that they are very, very serious about this.
Yeah, that's true. So Ship, I'm going to ask you, I'm going to mute you again, Soeren. Ship, I'm going to ask you, in your opinion, where do the ambassadors fit in the development program?
Yeah, sure. So this is the bit where Joshua can pipe up and tell me to stop claiming so much scope and responsibility. But no, look, I think for me, the ambassadors are a really important role. As Josh said, the community behind COTI is enormous. Yeah, I think there's like 250,000 followers for COTI on Twitter. We've been around for a long time. Telegram is always more active than we can actually moderate. The Discord channel is always immensely popular. And I think our role as ambassadors really is one, continuing to grow that reach and properly enabling people who don't know about COTI on what is COTI v2, how has it got a different approach to a privacy-centric blockchain, and how is it truly next generation. So I think that falls very much in our bucket. And then I think the second thing is, we think about now we're in DevNet, we're starting to procure a really broad list of developers, so individuals, teams, existing decentralized applications. Our responsibility is to help. It's to help engage and I guess almost just provide a first line of support to those respective developers. So it's helping to manage that top of funnel. So if I had to boil down ambassadors into two things, it's probably growing that reach, educating the community on what we have. And then secondly is to provide first line support for that new funnel of developers that we're seeing grow day by day.
I love that answer.
Yeah. I love having Ship around, Joshua. He's like bailed me out so many times, man. He's unbelievable. Big fan.
Well, what I can say in all honesty is, you never know what you're going to find behind the scenes when you're starting a new role and joining a new organization. And from the community to the engineers to the leadership, I've been really pleasantly surprised on each round. And I've spent a lot of time with a lot of ambassadors and in and off Web 2 and Web 3. And what I've experienced so far with, Ship and Soeren and the other ambassadors and community leaders, is they honestly care about what's happening in the community. They are not afraid to tell us where we're making mistakes or where we need to improve on things. That message is given clearly and thoughtfully. And it's also clear as they're delivering that message that they've got our backs and that they believe in the project. And that has been really exciting for someone who's got to come and, build an ecosystem, which is a non-trivial thing to attempt. It's great to find out that it's, you have these people who have been building it all along and are excited about it, and they're competent and thoughtful and caring. So those are all really exciting things. It's not what necessarily the answer to the question about the ambassador, but it is what you find behind the scenes with the community leaders.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. When well, I'll just say when they released the list of the ambassadors, I know every single one of them, and like I could say I'm basically friends with all of them, and they're just all great guys. But what you were kind of saying there with how people seem to really care about the project and aren't scared to talk about it, and I think that's been fostered by COTI's. For years, they have been the one project, in my opinion, that really seems to listen to community feedback. We've had a few updates over the years that have been not well received by the community, and they'll hear and they'll listen, and it'll take them a couple days, and they'll come back and they'll go, "Hey guys, we heard you. Maybe that was a little bit early. Maybe that is too much, etc., etc." And I've never seen a crypto project kind of bend the knee to their community like that. And I think that's kind of what's brought people like Ship and Soeren and myself, and Jordy and Fireflight's on there. Unity has built so many tools for the community, and I think it's just because they've kind of brought us in and made us part of the decision-making process even before it was kind of official, right? You feel recognized as a community member when you're in the masses saying, hey, like this is too much or this was too soon. So that's kind of, what I've always been wondering. Is it because of that kind of input, or, they've given us that opportunity to really feel like we're part of the team. So I don't know if you've really heard about that too much, Josh, but for the past 4 years, it's just, that's been one thing that stood out with, Shahaf coming in, talking to us, and then the team just basically looking at how we react to things and then reacting to it.
Yeah, I think, you do see that even from the hiring process when I was, going through interviews with COTI and they were interviewing, others, how you would relate to community, how you would, embrace community, how you would partner with communities. These were a lot of the questions that, came through early on. So you can see that sort of baked into COTI even from the start of the hiring process through to onboarding. And then once I landed, you have people like Natalie and Efrat who've been, part of COTI for a long time and working closely with the community. And they are very vocal about making sure that, as we are making plans, as we're talking about, next steps, that community is involved in that and part of that process. And so you just see it at sort of every level of COTI, understanding that in Web3 you can't just have a product. In Web2 you can have a product, you go out and sell it. Yes, you need a community, but really it's kind of fundamentals of product. You got to have both in Web3, and there's a lot of companies who come into Web3 and misunderstand that, and they fail pretty hard. And there's projects that spin up that I have seen who honestly in the background have disdain for their community, which is kind of surprising, but you do see it and you hear it. And I haven't seen or felt any of those things in COTI. It's really understanding the lockstep nature of bringing that community along in Web3.
Yeah, I will have to say those two ladies that you mentioned, I've been so lucky to be able to, have an open channels with them, and they've just been so helpful with communication, and they're the backbone of, all the marketing and stuff. And I can't say enough about those two. But I have another question for you, Joshua, moving along, and just, we've got a really good crowd with us right now. I'm just going to ask you guys who are new here. We're speaking with Joshua Maddox, who's the dev relations manager for COTI, who's kind of overseeing the developer program. You can follow him on Twitter. I'll throw up his tag right away. But if you guys could just retweet the space or, share the YouTube link, just because we want everybody to get to know Josh, because after listening to this show, you'll see why he's a part of the team. It's really exciting. I got to ask you, Josh, and I don't know what you could tell us, but hopefully something, what's next for the program, or what you kind of see this turning into in the future here?
Yeah, I think there's a few things there that, we're at liberty to talk about. One is, we've launched the B part of the ABC program. So for those of you who perhaps don't know, the entire program is called the ABC Fund, and that stands for Ambassadors, Builders, and Creators. And so we have just launched the B part, which is for builders. Obviously, during the DevNet phase, we've got to get builders in, battle testing, garbled circuits, proving out the use cases, and bringing us problems and bringing us answers to where we shine, and letting other people know about. But then there's also the ambassadors and the creators portion, where we have to get people taking what's being built on COTI and talking about it and bringing it to non-builders, and making sure that both builders and non-builders can find and discover COTI at those right moments at the top of the funnel, when it matters for them to actually find us. And so that is a big piece that we need to get those other aspects defined and launch soon. I need to be able to come back and very clearly answer that ambassador's question that you asked, Tracer. So that's part of that. And then the other piece is, we are, if you wanted to equate it to a Web2 company, we're very much a problem solution fit right now. And we have a very, very promising and proven technology that has to be shown publicly to prove problems or solve problems. And we need to be bringing in the builders who are testing and proving that. So a lot of, I would say maybe about 50% of my work right now is BD efforts. So I'm on calls for about half the day with prospective builders, people who already have existing dApps, people who are already building, who already have inbuilt audiences, people who understand the need for privacy, and making sure that what we're offering is in line with those exacting needs. And so I think for the DevNet and the testnet space, it's really about getting the proofs public and the people in place who can help us talk about those proofs in every channel that matters. And then we can talk more about what the plans are beyond that for mainnet. But that's really the near-term work.
Awesome. Soeren, do you have any thoughts about the developer program? I know I've had you muted, so I'm going to unmute you now and give you a chance to talk.
Yeah, thank you very much. No, I mean, I don't think there's not much more to say than already what Joshua has just mentioned. We are the first line of support now for DevNet, but there is a testnet, there is a mainnet, there is an enhanced mainnet. So if what we are doing is working and COTI is happy with it, and it so far seems like we're good, then we still have a lot of work ahead of us. But I also see personally a future for ambassadors, maybe different ambassadors than what we have today, but ambassadors who can be vocal about what the community wants and needs, bring up things whenever, be a much stronger voice for the community. So I think there's something in that. We can talk things about like marketing. How should COTI be updating the community? What format should it be, and how often should it be? Those sorts of things. We can get involved in that as well. There's a lot of use cases, to use a popular word, for community ambassadors.
Absolutely.
What about you, Ship? Final thoughts about the developer program, or is there anything you wanted to talk about there?
No, not in particular. I guess the only thing I would shamelessly just plug that if you are a developer listening and you haven't come across COTI, we have got an amazing builders grant. It's currently worth, I think, about $50 million, and it ranges in grants from $1,000 to $100,000. And we're really looking to develop anything from a smart contract that demonstrates a use case through to a decentralized application that is already proven and has an audience, as Joshua says. So it's a really exciting pathway ahead. And I think in the first week we've had a lot of traction. I think there's 120 odd smart contracts deployed. We're in conversations with many individual developers. So yeah, there's a real buzz, and I think we can take it to a really good place.
Ship, I gave Tracer the all-in-one document that you did for anyone who's interested in building on V2. Tracer, maybe you can put that up for people to download it.
Yeah, I'll share it right now, and then we can put it in the comments. But I didn't get a chance to look at it. So Ship, it's all cool if I show this.
It is Unity's document.
Unity. Okay.
I reckon let's if we can share it afterwards, I think let's definitely do that. But I don't know which document it is. So.
And maybe something that's really easy for people to do, if you go to docs.coti.io, at the bottom of the menu, there's a get started at the top. So for those who are interested and want to dive into code, you can start doing that now. But at the bottom of those links, either on the left-hand side of the menu on desktop, or if you're on mobile at the bottom of the hamburger menu, there's a link to the Builders program, and it will give you a complete overview. It will tell you exactly what we're looking for at this stage, both individuals and entities. We welcome both. And there's also a very handy application guide that will really guide you in what we're looking for in terms of answers to questions to help our advisory community and our advisory team to look over those grants and then decide on which projects we should get behind. Yeah, that's great. You can see it there. Yeah, it's that bottom link, COTI's Builder program.
Awesome. So that's pretty much it for tonight. But Joshua, I just got to ask you if you could. So we're planning another show in the next 2 weeks where more of your team could be there. Could you just kind of give us a little description on who will be joining us at the next one?
I'm really excited for you all to meet Daniel, our head of product. He's joined us by way of Chainlink. He was in charge of product managing leading all of Chainlink's developer tooling. So really, really smart hire. Has hit the ground running and has been a really good thought partner. A lot of the RFPs and grant process will be coming for as part of that product development roadmap. And he's just a really thoughtful, decent guy, father, all of these things that I'm able to relate to, being a father myself, and just comes with a real depth of experience. And I don't think you get much better in Web3 than Chainlink's developer tools. So having someone that has that experience is going to be critical. So definitely get him in, interview him, and then we will have more announcements to come.
Awesome. So I'm just going to check in. Any final thoughts from the ambassadors before we sign off here tonight?
Just we keep saying it. If you guys have any questions, any issues you want to build on COTI V2, or you have any other issues, come to us. That's what we're here for. And want to say that I'm really happy and I'm really proud to be representing COTI. And I'm super excited about the future. Super excited.
What about you, Ship? You got anything?
Yeah, just two quick things. I think the first is to Soren's point, in that vein of being the first line of support for any prospect developers out there. Our DMs are always open. We're currently in this phase that Josh was alluded to, where I guess you can apply for grants. With that means obviously it's challenge 1, which is coming up with the idea. We're very clued up on, I guess, what code you're looking for, the new use cases that we want to try and demonstrate on chain, be that confidential transactions for payments, be it real world assets. And we've spoken already a lot around the confidential DeFi, machine learning and AI stuff as well. So please do reach out if you need ideas around what to build. And the second thing is, just as a parting note, is I know we're all being very fluffy earlier, as I would say, but no, it's been a really, really, really good experience, and that we've been part of this community for a long time, right? And we've tried our best to become a pillar of that community. And we've been invited quite openly to come and have a regular cadence with the team, to be privy to some of these new exciting things that are happening, and have been given the chance to support. And I would just say that everything you would want or hope for, like within the team, from the outside in, is absolutely what you get. So it's been a great experience.
I 100% support that last statement. Perfect.
I always envisioned your group chat was like you guys all put on your pajamas and make popcorn and have pillow fights and stuff. But it actually sounds like
that's our next call.
Yeah, I guess you guys are already getting work done.
So far, it's only Ship doing that.
You do realize that COTI pajamas are now going to be the first thing in the merch store, right? Like
that's actually a great idea. And I'm sorry that Jordy and Fireflight and Unity couldn't be here. But Josh, like you said, you've been here for about 4 weeks. So I guess my last question on the way out, and you can kind of wrap it up for us. After the first month, what's it like? How has it been, and what are you most looking forward to?
Coming in, one critical thing when you're working in any sort of emerging tech is having leadership that has good decision-making velocity. And I've seen a lot of great ideas stall out because people hum and haw or worry too much about the decisions. You do need to worry, and you do need to bring information, but you also need to move at speed. And I have come in with my fingernails on the back of the bus trying to keep up with this team. And that is very, very exciting to see. So I think there's an understanding that there has to be an urgency and that we have to make decisions when they matter. They need to be thoughtful decisions, but the decisions need to be there and they need to come quickly. So I think that's really been part of the experience. The other part of the experience is, not to keep harping on it, but coming in and seeing, we got on a, DM with you, Tracer, and you're like, yep, I haven't been around for a little bit, but I really want to get plugged back in and let's do this call. And, Ship and Soeren giving advice, I'll put up a doc, for example, and say, hey, can someone give me feedback on this doc? And 30 minutes later, you've got really thoughtful information in that doc where people are taking the time to submit. And people don't have to do that, right? Like, they've got busy lives and they've got friends and family and, tasks to attend to. And so between the decision-making velocity, the urgency, and what you see with the community leaders from now, I'm just really excited about what has been built and what we have to launch off of. That is such a rarity that you have this launching pad, and got best of class in the industry technology, along with the community that is cheering it on. Like, that is, it's just massive and it's exciting.
So I have to thank Soeren for setting this up. I really appreciate the work you did behind the scenes, Soeren. That's awesome. Ship, thank you so much for being here. I haven't talked to you very much lately, so it was great to catch up. And I think that this will now, especially if we got a show coming up in 2 weeks, I'll start bugging you more. Josh, it was so great to meet you today before the show and during. I'm super excited to have you. Just hearing about your experience and everything, it's perfect. COTI has a way of picking people who are exciting, who have great experience, and I'm so glad you're here with us. And we're going to wrap it up for now. We'll be back in 2 weeks. And from coast to coast around the world, thank you for being with us tonight, guys. And take care of each other and stay COTI. You have been listening to the Who is COTI podcast. Please follow myself at Who is Tracer on X for this week's episode information. Stay COTI.